Hello, Get the Gloss. I'm Emma Bardwell. I'm a registered nutritionist and I specialise in women's health. Now, today I wanted to discuss with you 8 signs that you might be perimenopausal. So, number 1, are you in your late 30s or in your 40s? If so, you may well start to be easing into the perimenopause transition. There's a kind of misnomer that this life stage happens in our 50s. It doesn't. For many of us, it happens much, much sooner. So it's something definitely to be aware of. Number 2, you may find that your periods have started to be a little bit less predictable, a little bit more erratic. They might be heavier, they might be lighter, they might be further apart. You might have 2 very close together. This is very often the very first kind of initial stages of perimenopause. Number 3, you might have some unexplained symptoms. So things like UTIs, something that perhaps you didn't used to get, cystitis, that kind of thing. Maybe you're getting them more and more frequently. You might get things like pins and needles in your fingers. You might get tinnitus. You might have palpitations or joint pains. It's agreed that there are 34 symptoms connected to perimenopause and menopause. I think there's many, many more. But these ones that I've just mentioned are the ones that don't really get much airtime. You know, we talk a lot about things like hot flushes. So if you want to get the full list, Google something called the Green Climacteric Scale, and you can check off all the ones that apply to you, and it could be quite useful if you are going to talk to your GP. So number 4, you may find that penetrative sex is more painful. So basically what happens in perimenopause is that your estrogen levels start to decline, or it fluctuates quite wildly. And estrogen isn't just used in reproductive health. It has many different uses throughout the body, but one of those uses is to actually hold on to water. So what happens is when your levels start to decline, you may find that particularly your mucosal tissue, so things like in your mouth, your eyes and your vagina, those tissues start to get a bit drier, and this can make sex much more painful. Now, there are lots of things that you can do for this. You can talk to your GP about something called Vagifem, which is very, very safe and very, very effective, but there are lots of lubes and products on the market. And lots of them that are very, very good. One that I recommend quite often to my clients is called Silk. So definitely worth checking that out. Number 5, you are aware that you are kind of experiencing changes in your skin. And this is kind of connected to what I previously said about, estrogen being responsible for moisture, for holding on to moisture. So you may find that your skin becomes much drier. It might be more itchy, it might be more sensitive. You may find that you start to experience acne maybe around your jaw. Quite often it's that kind of hormonal cystic acne, and again it's due to fluctuating hormone levels. Particularly in the case of acne, it means that your estrogen perhaps is dipping below your kind of natural testosterone levels. Number 6, and this is one, again, that I don't think gets talked about very much, and lots of women will put it down to overwhelm or, juggling lots of different things, dealing with kids, that kind of thing. But basically it is that you start to lose confidence. So, I have women in clinic who say that they can no longer stand up and do a presentation at work, something that they would have done, without a second thought previously. And again, this is down quite often, this is a very kind of common theme when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. It comes down to those fluctuating hormone levels. So we have estrogen receptors all over our brain, particularly in the hippocampus and the amygdala. And the amygdala is that it's responsible for kind of fear. So what happens is that changes in that area of the brain can really knock women's confidence, knock their self-esteem. I have women saying that, you know, they no longer feel like they can get in a car and drive on the motorway, things that they would ordinarily have done, you know, without a second thought. So that is definitely, that psychological side of perimenopause definitely needs to be talked about and understood a lot more than it currently is. Number 7, you may well find, and this is such a common lament, that you are putting on weight, particularly around your middle, that kind of, you know, middle-age spread, and you're finding it really, really hard to shift. So maybe in your 20s, you would, I don't know, cut back on calories or skip a meal or, you know, up your exercise. But the things that you used to do just aren't working anymore. So this is down, it's multifactorial. It's down to stress. I think it's down to, quite often women aren't sleeping very well. Your resting metabolism slows down as you age. And also your fat cells actually hold on to, they produce estrogen. So even, you know, it's in quite small amounts, but still your body is recognizing that estrogen levels are dipping, so it wants to hold on to them for all it's worth. Hence, it's so hard to kind of shift that middle-age spread, but it is doable. And I have lots of tips on my grid. I've also just written a book called The Perimenopause Solution, where I spend a whole chapter talking about ways to lose weight that don't involve calorie counting. And then finally, you are experiencing brain fog issues, potentially. And again, this can feel very worrying. It can feel very scary for women. They may feel like they are you know, experiencing sort of those early signs of dementia. It's not. It's a very different diagnosis. And it is, again, it's down to your hormones, but there are lots of things that you can do. You know, you need to stay really well hydrated. You need to look at the amount of alcohol that you're consuming, because it has a massive knock-on effect. It's you know, it's neurotoxic. You need to really concentrate on getting lots of healthy fats, particularly omega-3s, into your diet. And you get omega-3s from oily fish, so, you know, a couple of portions a week will, you know, you'll hit your quota. But I realise that lots of women don't particularly enjoy eating oily fish, or maybe you're veggie or vegan, so you can supplement. There are lots of brilliant fish oils on the market. My favourite is Bare Biology. But you know, there's plenty to choose from. And if you're vegan and you don't want to have a fish oil, then I would look to something like an algae oil, which is, again, it gives you that EPA and that DHA, which is really, really important for brain health and cognition. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, pop them down below, and I will be back very soon talking a little bit more about what it means to be perimenopausal.